Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking your time to be a part of DRM. Thank you for, uh, out of your schedules, thank you for taking time to be a part of DRM and being here. So, yeah, DRM is a movement that has been started, in during the lockdown itself, in order to answer vital questions that are not very much addressed or that are not addressed directly, but they are very important for us to live, Christ-centered lives. So, DRM, Deborah Rise movement, it has been started at that point of time with this aim to answer tough questions and all that. So we'll be having I'll be putting a few links of DRM of Deborah Rice Moment in the chat box, and we also have a helpline number that also will be put up in the chat box, and also the link to have the link to be in touch with us will also be put up in the chat box so that you can be connected with us and you'll be getting to know the updates of DRM. So for the past few months, especially during the lockdown, DRM has been able to address a wide range of topics that helps a person think, reason, and also strengthen their belief in our Savior, Lord Jesus Christ. So in case if you're new here, you can always have a look at our channel and you can look at the topics that have been addressed through DRM, and we believe that will be a helpful and it will be a blessing for you. So today the topic is the time principles. It's titled the time principles, and to address that, we have Mr. Rajiv Chelladurai with us. And for those of you who do not know Mr. Rajiv, I'll read a few things about him. Mr. Rajiv has over 2 decades of corporate experience, having worked for some of the leading business entities. Once, when I attended a program, the anchor said that he's a person who used to advise the Tatas and the big names and all that. So he is here amongst us. And most importantly, he believes his purpose is to SIT, which is Speak, Inspire, and Teach. He has authored 3 books and has currently set up his own organization um, called Ergo's Mind, and recently started a new project called the Purpose Project. He is a wisdom coach whose life is a testament to everything that teaches or propagates. As a practicing Christian, most of Rajiv's teaching is inspired from the Bible, and uh, he ascribes to his journey, to his gleanings, and from the teachings of Christ in the Bible. So we have Mr. Rajiv amongst us, and after his talk, we'll be having a time of Q&A. So in case you have any questions as he speaks, please note it down so that we can, bombard him with questions. And obviously, he's a guy who answers tough questions. So please put it up in the chat box, and also if you want to ask, you can unmute and talk. So, Mr. Rajiv, over to you. We are glad that you're here. Over to you, Mr. Rajiv.
Thank you, Jobin. So good to be here. Thank you, Jobin, for that introduction. Thank you, Sister Lata, for having me over. I think this is my second time to be talking in the DRM Zoom conference. The last time I came, I spoke about purpose and why purpose is important. Today, I'm going to be speaking about time. If it's okay with you, before we get started, I just want to invite you to join me in prayer very briefly as we just pray that God would speak to us. He would speak into us, into our situations and our circumstances. Just close your eyes and join with me, and let's focus on God. Lord Father, we come into your presence in the name of your Son Jesus, and we pray that you would speak to us, O Master, that you would instruct us, you would guide us, confirm things to us, open our eyes, and speak into our situations and circumstances. For we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Awesome. So I want to talk to you about time principles. I think, we can end life 2 ways. We can end up with life and we can look back at life and say it's a life of regret. I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. Or we can end life saying that, I'm satisfied because I actually lived out my life purposefully. The choice is between living a life of purpose and living a life of regret. And the differentiator between living a life of purpose and living a life of regret really is, how did I spend the time that God had allocated for me? That's where it all ends up in, right? We can get all the qualifications, all the certifications, get all the designations, but if we aren't using that time that God has given us on planet Earth, right? That's where it differentiates between a life of purpose and a life of regret. I think the greatest gift that God has given us is time. And therefore, we should move from counting minutes to actually making every minute count, which God has allocated for us. Very often, we are living in the past and reflecting on the past, and they're saying the good old days. I often find myself reminiscing about the past. I wish I was younger. Time is flying so fast that I very soon I will hit a landmark in terms of my age. I can't believe, I was seeing a video sent by my classmates. We've got this school group, and if some of you are in Chennai, I studied in a school called Don Bosco Egmore, and we were the 92 batch that passed out. So we have the school group, and they had this sports tournament that happened yesterday, and I was seeing some of my school buddies from my batch who were there, and all of them are looking so different than what I remembered seeing them back in school. Right. And then I said, hey, they're looking much different. And when I go look at myself in the mirror, I'm also looking different. What's really happened? Time has passed. So reflecting back on the past is good, but remaining in the past is not something that we need to be doing. Or we could be taking a stance and moving into the future and hoping and waiting that things will get better in my life. The future will get better. And therefore, if you are either dropped anchor and living in the past, or you're trying to parachute desperately into the future, what's really happening in this is you're missing out on the present that God has given you. You're missing out on the present. And I like the word. The now is actually called as present. The now time is actually called as present. And I think it's very beautifully called as present, because present means it's God's gift for you and me. So this few minutes that we have, I want to share with you time principles from the scripture. And the first principle that I want to share with you is time is God's gift for you and me, and we got to use it prudently. We got to use it wisely. I really think it's not the number of years that we live, but it's how we use the time that God gave us, which is important. Yeah, if God gives us 120 years to live, thank God for it. Thank God for that. But even if God gives us this 33 years, and 33 is an important number of years, that's the number of years that Jesus lived, right? But he used his time effectively. It's how you use time. It's not the number of years, which is actually very important. I really like the scripture, which is found in Psalm 31 and verse 15. My times are in your hands. Our times are in God's hands. If God has kept us alive right now, it's God's plan. The other day, I was listening to a doctor speak, and he was preaching, and he studied in CMC, Ludhiana, practiced in CMC, and all of that, and he's now based in Germany. And he was saying, Rajiv, I've studied how the whole human body works. I've done so many surgeries, and I work on the lungs. He says, I know how the body works and all these parts work, but God has to give permission for every breath that we take. That line just hit me so hard, because we think that we are in control of our life and we are going to live forever here on planet Earth, right? But our times are in God's hands. And our greatest asset that God has given you and me, thank God he's given us resource, but that's not your asset. Thank God he's given us property, but that's not your asset. Thank God he's given us jobs, but that's not your asset. You know what's your greatest asset? Your greatest asset and my greatest asset is time. Is time. Okay? And God has made you and me stewards of this great asset that he has given us, which is time. I really think we will need to give account for the time that God has allocated for us. What have we done with this time? How have we used this time? And I think, and I'll say this, the way we manage our time is really a manifestation of character. I want to say that again. The way we manage our time is a manifestation of character. We often think character is not to tell lies. Yes, that's character. We often think character is doing the right thing when you're alone. Yes, that is character. But how you spend your time is also a manifestation of your character. How I spend my time is also a manifestation of my character. So the first aspect, the first principle is time is God's gift for you and me. Use it prudently. The second principle, realizing the limited nature of time, is the starting point to living a life that matters. Realizing the limited nature of time is the starting point to living a life that matters. Right? I love the scripture in Psalm 90 and verse 12. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Often I think of wisdom and you think wisdom is okay. So if I read a lot of books, then I'm going to get wisdom. If I get all these qualifications, double MA, PhD, double PhD, that is wisdom. But look at the psalmist, how he defines wisdom. How can you access wisdom? He says, and he's saying this to God. He's saying, Lord, you teach me to number my days, that I may understand the brevity of life, how short life is. Life is like a vapor, like a grass that is here today and is not there tomorrow. Teach me to number that my life on planet Earth, the days that I have are limited. The breath that I have is also limited. One day this breath will stop. Teach me to number it, not to feel scared and to get afraid. Oh, I'm going to die. No, not about that. But for me to realize that time is a limited commodity. And the moment we realize that time is a limited commodity, then we can make the best use of time. He's coming from that angle. See, when I know that time is limited, then my choice, it impacts the quality of my choices and the quality of the decisions that I make. So on the other hand, if you think, I'm going to live here forever, all the bad things are going to happen to everybody else. I'm not going to die. I'm going to live here forever on planet Earth. You know what? The quality of choices that we make will be clumsy. But the moment I realize the brevity of life, that's when I will realize I got to make the best use of time that I have. 2020 has taught us that, isn't it? We've seen unprecedented number of people lose their lives. When this whole pandemic started, it was somewhere far away. But as the pandemic grew in more intensity, we started seeing people in our near and dear circle being suddenly taken away. Right? We didn't expect it. They suddenly were taken away. Today, one of my daughters, she's 17, turning 18. In 2016, we realized that she had a rare form of cancer. She was 13 at that time. And ever since that 2016, we didn't expect it. It just came suddenly. And, so she went through the treatment and it's just a miracle. And that's a story, a testimony for another day, how God healed her. Right? So every 6 months, we'll have to go for routine checkups, scans to find out if she's okay. But 2020 happened and go for routine checkup. So today she went for her routine checkup after more than a year and a half. And every time she goes in for that routine checkup, my heart beats faster. What is the report going to be? What's going to happen, right? By God's grace, today she came back with a good report. Everything is fine by God's grace. But every time I go into that hospital, Tata Memorial Hospital in Mumbai, one of the good hospitals in treating cancer and underprivileged kids and different strata of society go there. You really understand how life is so limited and how blessed we are, to be given the luxury of time. And then therefore, along with that privilege of having the luxury of time, there is also an accountability, and therefore that accountability comes with an ownership and a responsibility, right? Do I realize that time is uncertain, time is limited, and therefore am I making the best use of time? What did I do today that I didn't do yesterday? What did I learn today that I didn't learn yesterday? How did I get better than I was yesterday? How did I make a difference to somebody today than what I did yesterday? These are questions that we need to ask ourselves before our eyes close, as our head hits the pillow every night to go to sleep. Every night. Those are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves. I'm moving to the third principle. The third principle is use your time to build a body of work that will outlive you. Use your time to build a body of work that will outlive you. I'm quoting Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 24. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way so as to get the prize. Run in such a way so as to get the prize. And you know what Paul is talking about? He's talking about a prize that does not, is an eternal prize. He's talking about a prize that, is not, that doesn't fade away, but a prize that will last. Run in such a way so as to get the prize. And if I go back to the point, am I using the time that God has graciously allocated to me and is approved for me every time my heart beats to build a body of work that will outlive me, right? Or am I just running after the immediate? How do I get a salary? Yeah, getting salary is important, right? But if salary is all that I'm running after in life, right, then I'm not living to build a body of work that will actually outlive me. When I look at the heroes in the Bible, I'm looking at Apostle Paul, his amazing call that God had on his life and the kind of work that he's done. If I look at the New Testament, a significant portion of the New Testament is written by Apostle Paul. If I look at the church growth, right, again, it's Apostle Paul. If I look at the incredible journeys that he made, across Asia Minor, all these places, to just plant churches there and to not just plant, but to father those churches there, father leaders there, that the next generation, and the next generation would be impacted because of one person who chose to live and use his time to build a body of work that will outlive him. That's my challenge to myself. I'm saying, hey, Rajiv, what are you living for? Are you living just to make money? Money is not bad, by the way, right? But if the love of money is bad, are you living just to get famous and popular, that everybody will know you? Is that what you're doing? Well, that will fade away. People won't remember you. But are you living to make a difference in people's lives? Are you living to share the love of Christ to others? Am I using my gifts, my talents, my abilities, which God has given me, to build a body of work that even when I'm gone, right, the body of work will remain and be alive, right? And that's the challenge I put to you as well. Are you using your time to build a body of work? You're probably saying, hey, Rajiv, you know what? I can't speak. Well, body of work is not about speaking only, right? Can you make a difference in the lives of people? Can you be that powerful intercessor, just praying for the needs of others, that even when you're gone, you know what? The prayers that you prayed will be answered, even when you and me are gone. Can you be that intercessor? Can you be that person who can show somebody love, right? If your burden is just to love people, right? Can you just love people? That somebody who was thinking of, hey, nobody loves me, I want to take my life. But when they meet you, they experience the love of God that flows through you. And because of that interaction, they start to feel wanted. They feel, needed. They experience the love of God. And that even when you're gone, they'll say, there was this auntie, there was this uncle, there was this Anna, there was this Akka, right? Who, when I was at my lowest point, came around. And because of that person, I experienced the love of God. And today I'm doing this. I can tell you so many stories of people who live like that. And therefore, the question for you and for me is, are you using your time to build a body of work that will outlive you? If you are not, I would encourage you, let today be that day when you make that decision to build a body of work that will outlive you. When I look at the Deborah Rise movement, for me, that's a body of work that should outlive you. God put it in my heart to start this project called the Purpose Project. Really simply, very simple, to help people find their purpose. We started this in September of last year, and God told me this is not about you, and even this purpose project should outlive you. It should go beyond your generation, right? That's the vision that God has given us. That with God's help, to give God glory, that we build something that will outlive us. Going to principle number 4. This is a very practical principle. The quality of our tomorrows are determined by how we spend our time today. The quality of our tomorrows are determined by how we spend our time today. I like, yeah, when I was working in my organization, we used to sing a song every day to motivate our teams, okay, especially in this part of the world. And the song is a very famous patriotic, I don't know whether it's patriotic, but it's a famous, familiar Hindi song, which said, Kal honge kamyab, which means tomorrow I will be successful. I always used to question that. Why are you saying tomorrow I will be successful? We should be successful today, right? We should do the right things today. If I do the right things today, then I will be successful tomorrow. But if I just simply say tomorrow I will be successful and I do nothing today, right? Then tomorrow will be worse than today. And I love this verse in Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 to 8. Proverbs 6, 6 to 8. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. Now, who's saying this? The wisest man. He's saying, go not to the professor. He's saying, go not to the philosopher. He's saying, go not to the person with 5 PhDs, but go to the ant. Go to the ant. The ant is the smallest creature. By mistake, you stamp on it, it dies. But the instruction is, go to the ant, consider its ways and be wise. And then he unpeels it, unpacks it. He says, it has no commander, no manager, supervisor, boss. No, it has no commander, no overseer, no ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. Think about it. Now, think about God's creation. How amazing. The smallest creature. It's not saying, Nale namade. It's not saying, Kal honge kamyab. It's not saying, tomorrow, I'll see later. When the good time. No, the ant says, if I don't store in summer, I know winter is coming and I won't have food in winter. What wisdom, huh? What wisdom. And therefore, what are you doing today? I call this the Joseph principle. When Joseph knew that there were 7 years of harvest plentiful, he was saving up for the famine. And this is not just about saving. This is about routines. This is about habits, right? What are your routines during the day? Do you have a routine? If you take care of your health today, God being your helper, because you're taking care of your health today, right? You will have good health tomorrow, right? You'll have good health today and tomorrow. If you spend time reading today, right, it's going to help you tomorrow because you spend time today. If you spend time relationally meeting people and building relationships, it's going to help you, right? So the point is, don't wait for tomorrow for things to get better. Things will not get better automatically because tomorrow is coming. What you do today will determine your tomorrows. Okay? Going to principle number 5. Talking about this, and I'm getting very practical right now. It's important for us to identify time robbers and wasters and deal with them decisively. What are those things that rob my time? What are those things that rob my time? And for a scripture reference, I've taken you to the Song of Songs, chapter 2 and verse 15. And this is what we read there. Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards are vineyards that are in bloom. Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes. You see, these time robbers are very subtle. Very, you won't realize it's a time robber. You'll think it's an attraction. Normally, these time robbers come in the category of attractions and distractions. They come in the category of attractions and distractions. We are attracted towards those, right? They come in the form of social media. Let me browse a little bit, right? Let me just go. There's a notification that's come, on my phone. I need to check who's that. Oh, there's a WhatsApp message has come. I need to check who's that person who's sending, right? You know what? If you don't respond to that WhatsApp message immediately, the world is not going to stop rotating. The world is not going to stop, right? If you check your Facebook or Instagram immediately, when you get a notification, nothing's going to happen. Okay. And I was writing today and I was thinking about the power of focus. Focus is a mind that is anchored to the goal and is not buffeted by distracting thoughts. The sharper the focus, the greater the effectiveness. But all these things are trying to rob our attention. These little foxes, social media, technology, doing things which are not in line with your purpose. Okay, chilling. I'm not against rest. I think rest is very important, right? But generally just chilling, chatting, right? What are those time robbers? Each of us have our own set of time robbers, right? And I want, maybe you've seen this 4 quadrants before. It's called the Eisenhower matrix, named after the US President Eisenhower. Now, Eisenhower was very effective in what he did. And they asked him, what is the secret of your success? And then he said, hey, you know what? This is how I break up my day. And ever since, it's been called the Eisenhower matrix, right? It's 4 quadrants. It's got the urgent on one side. It's got the important on the other side. One axis urgent, the other axis important. And let me start with quadrant number 1, which is urgent and important. Now, these are important deadlines. These are fire items. These are super urgent things. Guess what? Most of us spend most of our time in the urgent and important, where we are fighting fires. Oh, I got to pay this bill now. We waited till the last day to pay the bill. So now it's become very urgent and important. When we had time, we'll say, I'm like that. By the way, please, I'm pointing a finger to myself first. My logic is, why pay in advance? Pay the last day. They're not paying me interest and all of that stuff. So that's some funny logic I have. But we wait till the last minute to make that payment. We wait till the last minute to do this. Project needs to be submitted, in 2 weeks. But now we start working. We start working on the last minute rather than working earlier and working on chunks. Urgent and important. This is a box which is full of stress. This is a high stress box. High stress, high pressure box. The second quadrant is called not urgent, but important. It's not urgent, but it's important. Now, for me, this is the most critical, effective box that we need to be spending time on. This is where we do our planning. This is where we do our exercise, right? Our physical fitness. When I ask people, do you think physical fitness is important? They say, yeah, it's very important. Then I ask people, how many of you do it? Hardly 5% in the room. I said, what happens? The rest is 95%. All of you who said it's important. They look at me and say, Rajiv, where is the time? Where is the time? Right? My point to them is, you got to make the time. If it's important, you will make the time. If it is not important, you will make an excuse. You make an excuse if it's important. If it's not, if you will make time if it's important, you'll make an excuse if it's not important to you. And later, when we fall sick and the doctor says you have to go for a walk daily, your lifestyle has to change, you have to eat better and eat right, then when we have no choice, it falls in the urgent and important bucket. But you got to be spending time on the not urgent important. Reading a book, urgent, not important, right? Praying, it's so important. Yeah, those who wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. But we want to go with the little strength we have, finish all our strength, and then get tired and fatigued. But the Word of God says, hey, you know what? Just wait in my presence. You'll renew your strength. You will mount up with wings like eagles. You will run and not grow weary. You will walk and not be faint. But how does it happen? By waiting. And that waiting on the Lord is this. It's really, really important. May not be urgent in the eyes of the world, but it's important, right? So that's what you do. You got to schedule for this. The third quadrant is it's urgent and not important. It's urgent to do, But you know what? You can actually delegate it. You can ask somebody else to do it on your behalf. You can enable your team. You're managing a team. You can enable your team to do it. You can ask I do a lot of delegation in my house to my kids. My kids are teenagers now. So I ask somebody to do this, somebody to do that when they have the time. So I delegate it there. And the last quadrant is not urgent, not important. Okay. Here you declutter. Here you got to eliminate stuff. You got to remove stuff. And you'll find, if you carefully think of how you're spending your day and your time, you know what? We're doing a lot of stuff which is not important, not urgent, which is basically stuff which does not add value. Okay, it's value destroying. So these are the 4 quadrants, and I would encourage you to actually plan your day and put your day into these boxes and say, how am I spending time? Take stock in terms of how are you spending time on this. Okay, principle number 6: make the best use of every opportunity in the present. Make the best use of every opportunity in the present. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 and 17. Paul, writing to the church at Ephesus, says this: be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. Okay? How do the wise live? Making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Okay? So, and opportunities come dressed as obstacles. Opportunities comes dressed as obstacles. It comes like a challenge. It comes like, oh man, it's so tough. I'm not going to do this. It's so difficult. What if I fail by doing this? But you know what? Every opportunity comes dressed as an obstacle. Opportunities sometimes seem very ordinary to do. Why should I do this small stuff? Right? If I do this small work, then let somebody else do it. No? And I was listening to, meditating on Saul. Remember King Saul? King Saul? Before he became king, he was doing a very ordinary task. What was that task? Searching for his father's lost donkeys. And as he searched for his father's lost donkeys, very ordinary task, but God was turning this obstacle into an opportunity. This was his moment to get anointed by Samuel. I'm thinking of King David before he became king. His father said, just take this lunch packet and go give to your brothers who are in the battle. He was doing a Swiggy job, as we talk about it today. He could have said, Daddy, send somebody else. But he said, no, ordinary job. Let me go do it. But as he went and did that, God was creating this massive obstacle, which would turn into become a great opportunity where, he would win over Goliath. I can go with many other examples. I'm thinking of Rebecca, right? When Abraham's servant came, and she's gone there to just take some water for her sheep. But then she says, can I give you some water? Can I give your camels also water? Right? It is a huge job to satisfy one camel. I think Eliezer had 10 camels. But it seemed like an obstacle. But because she chose to do the obstacle, which was ordinary, God turned it into an opportunity. Are you making the best use of every opportunity that comes your way? Right? It comes dressed as obstacles. It comes dressed as doing the ordinary. But we need to recognize it, have the conviction to believe in it, put in the efforts to fuel it into reality, and the endurance to keep on keeping on. We live in times of great uncertainty, but it's also times of great opportunity. It's also times of great opportunity. Number 7, okay, invest your time for things of eternal consequence and which is imperishable. I love this verse, and it's a constant reminder for me. But store up for yourselves in heaven, where moth and vermin do not destroy, Jesus' words, and where thieves do not break in and steal. Store up for yourself treasures in heaven. Jesus is saying, hey, you know what? Store your wealth in heaven. Store your treasure in heaven, where moth and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves Do not break and steal. But we got it wrong. We tend to go with the worldly thinking. And by the way, I'm making it very clear. I'm not against money. I think money is good to have. We can be a blessing to others and to the kingdom of God. But the love of money is wrong, right? The living to make. I want to make money. I want that is wrong. Okay, godliness with contentment is great gain, right? But Jesus here is saying, making another point. He's saying, store yourself treasures in heaven. The way we use our time will determine whether we are saving up treasures in heaven. If you are spending your time doing all the work, being so busy, you are that classic workaholic. Very good. But let me ask yourself a question. Ask you a question. What is your wealth account in heaven looking like? Are you storing wealth in heaven? Are you doing things for which have an eternal consequence? Right? Are you storing up wealth in heaven where you're going to be spending eternity? Right? So how I spend my time every day, I need to ask myself a question, right? What have I done today to store wealth in heaven, treasures in heaven? And you store treasures in heaven by doing the will of God. You store treasures in heaven by doing the will of God. Not for popularity, not to please people, not for the applause of people, not for monetary gains, but you do it because you want to get a well done, good and faithful servant from your Savior, right? Moving on to number 8. Number 8 says this: don't waste your time on feeding your ego. Instead, choose to love, laugh, and learn. Don't waste your time feeding your ego. Instead, choose to love, laugh, and learn. And this is what we read in John 13:34. New command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. Jesus is saying, I'm giving you not a new suggestion, not a new idea, but a new command. I'm commanding you. Okay, and what's the command? Love one another. And he sets the bar high. He says, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. A love that drove Jesus, a love that said, I know Judas is going to betray me, but I'm prepared to wash his feet. A love that was so strong that I know Peter's going to deny me 3 times, but I'm going to wash his feet and I'm going to meet him and restore him. And when I restore him, I'll ask him the question 3 times: Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? A love that's so strong that even though he was brutally beaten and abused and completely shamed and spat at, and his body was battered beyond recognition, on the cross, his first word is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's the love. But with God's help, we can do everything. We use this verse in Philippians, I can do all things to Christ who strengthens me. But we use that verse for exam. We use that verse. A tough example. I can do all things to Christ who strengthens me. When I have a challenge, we can use that verse like that. But you know what? To love those who we find it difficult to love, you got to be depending upon that verse and confessing it. I can do all things to Christ who strengthens me. Because of Christ strengthening me, I can love this person who's hurt me so much. I can love this person who stabbed me in my back, right? I can pray for that person. I can forgive that person. We've got this choice. I want to tell you, life is too short for you to stay angry. Life is too short for you to stay angry. You can either be happy or you can be angry. You can't be both. Be wise and make the right choice, right? Life is just too short. So learn to love. Learn to laugh, right? Learn to learn, right? So learn every day. Love every day. Laugh every day. That is principle number 8. Moving to principle number 9, there are 2 more points that I'm closing. I'm wondering how many principles, 2 more only, and then I close. Principle number 9 is this: spend your time on the truly valuable and that which matters. Spend your time on the truly valuables and that which matters. Matthew 6:21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. You know, what is your true valuables in life? Your true valuables in life are what money cannot buy. I learned that. I told you about my daughter's illness. She was so sick, she was at the point of death. Okay. Uh, Surgery went wrong. She had to have 5 surgeries after the one surgery. 7 days of hospital stay became almost 90 days. She was in life support system, septic shock, you name it, all of that. Up until that point in time, I was, chief distribution excellence officer. That was my designation. Chief distribution excellence officer for a Tata company. I had a good designation. I had good salary. But I realized my network, my net worth, my contacts, my qualification, my could not save my situation. And that's when I realized what my true valuables are. And what are your true valuables? Your true valuables is God over goods. Sometimes I think, I have this, if I have all these goods, I have this car, if I have this phone, if I have this TV, I have this, I have that, I'll be happy. But I've realized that even after accumulating all of this, all of that can't give me happiness. Only God can. Only God can. He satisfies. He says, taste and see that, I am good. He satisfies. So it's God over goods. That's the valuable. You can't buy God, right? You got to understand that. What are those valuables, right? It is family over fortune. Your family is far more important than the money and the fortune that you can actually make. It's your health over wealth. When you probably heard me say this, but I never get tired of saying this. When we have the health, we use our health to get wealth. And when we get the wealth, we are desperately trying to exchange the wealth we got to get back the health which we lost. But by then, it's too late. My question is, why did you lose your health in pursuit of just getting wealth, which you're anyway going to lose when you go back, right? So it's family over fortune, right? It's creating memories over money, right? So that even when we are gone, the memories will live on. Are you creating memories with your family, with your kids, with your spouse, with your extended family, with the friends that God's put? Are you creating those memories? It's memories over money. I can go on with the list, but I want you to get this, right? Your true valuables in life are what money cannot buy. Spend your time on the true valuable and that which matters. Just that walk with your spouse in the night, the time that you spend just talking about practically nothing important, but just spending time with each other, right? That's a treasure. You won't get that with your kids. Spending time with your kids. Very soon, I'm seeing my kids. This year, each of them. I got 3 kids, a son, and I got twin girls. This year, each of them will go their different ways. And I'm thinking, where do the years go? That suddenly all of them are going to go different ways. Next year, by the end of this year, my wife and me will be alone. My kids will be in different places, in colleges and higher studies and this and that. So when you have your kids, right, spend time with them, laugh with them, play with them, pray with them. I think it's so important. And finally, I'll end the 10th principle by saying time in this life is limited, but time in eternity is unlimited. It's so important for us to grasp this truth. Time in this planet Earth, the line between our date of birth and the day we breathe our last, there's a small dash. That's what this time is. But the time after that, as we breathe our last and we spend time in eternity, right, is forever and ever, right? That's the unlimited time that we actually have. And the verse that we all are familiar with this, right? John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, one and only son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Now we can choose to make a decision and say, I'm going to enjoy my life here on planet Earth. I want to tell you, I'm going to do everything that the world offers me. I want to tell you that's not a great choice. Even when you are on planet Earth, enjoy the things of God that will satisfy you. But there's a life that's coming. It's an eternal life, right? You got to be in that eternal life. Your name needs to be in that Lamb's book of life, right? So live wisely in the time that you have on planet Earth so that you will have access through Jesus and what Jesus did on the cross, right? That you can spend an eternity with God. If you've not made the choice, and you get this limited time to make that choice of where you want to spend eternity, an eternity with God in heaven or an eternity without God in hell. That's the reality, whether you believe what I say or not. That is the reality. That's what this word of God actually says. But you have an opportunity in this kuti life that we have here on planet Earth to make that choice. And it's my prayer that you make that choice and you stay strong till the end, that you will be in eternity with God forever and ever and ever. So I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you these time principles. I do hope it's a blessing for you. I know Jobin said, bombard me with questions. If there are questions that I can't answer, I will redirect those questions to Jobin, and you can feel free to bombard Jobin with those questions, right? But I'll give it a good shot to answer if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiv, for your time. Thank you for taking time to be with us. Folks, I hope you've noted those 10 principles, and I'm pretty sure if you put that into practice, our life will be more meaningful. For those of you who've joined, in the course of talk, a DRM, Deborah Rice movement, is a movement that has been started in order to address topics that are very important for a person to live a life meaningful and also to live a Christ-centered life. I've been sending the links of DRM and also the helpline numbers in the chat box. I hope you will be able to get them and make use of it. Mr. Rajiv, someone has asked in the chat box, will it be possible to get your PPT that you shared?
No problem. Just $100,000 and it's yours. No problem. Hey, I'm just kidding. I'll send you a PDF version of that. I'll send it to Sister Lata, and she will circulate it.
Cool. Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv. Folks, now we're moving to a time of Q&A. As I mentioned earlier, please keep your questions prepared and bombard Mr. Rajiv with those. So if you have any questions, please do put it up in the chat box, or you can let us know and we'll unmute you. You can unmute yourself and ask a question. So, Mr. Rajiv, a question from my side um, would be till others cope up with, bring up with the questions. Is it only the devil that blinds us about the importance of time, or do we also mess things up?
Yeah, I think we give the devil too much of credit than he is due for, right? I think we are also equally responsible because we get distracted. We get wrongly attracted to the things around us, right? It's very important for us to stay focused. And that's where purpose comes along so importantly, Jobin. When you don't know what your purpose is, you just keep meandering through life. And when you know what your purpose is, and you've got these accountability partners around you to walk along with you, you tend to be more focused. Having said that, there'll be times when you get distracted, but it's very important, like I said, to get on track back very early. Yes, there are also distractions that come from the evil one. And that's why we are reminded to not be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So daily renewal of our mind becomes very, very critical. So that's how I'd answer that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv. The second question that I quickly jotted while I was listening to your talk was how I really find it hard to combat the distractions and the browsing temptations that keep coming in. And all of my friends, whenever we talk to, we're just being bogged down by these distractors. And even though we set up a strict schedule, we set up, this quadrants and all that, we still somehow we fail. How do we combat that in a meaningful way? Mr. Rajiv, you muted your yeah.
Practical steps, right? I think one of our largest for this generation, I wouldn't blame this generation, even for people like me, is technology, right? So there are lots of things. Your social media, by the way, is built in such a way that it will create an addictive state of mind. Okay, so there's a lot of research that's actually gone into that place. The way social media is built, it's built to create an addictive kind of an interest. So the impact, right? Every time you get a notification on your phone alert, immediately it wires something within you in your subconscious mind to check what it is. And once you check that, you know what, you're browsing, you're going to somebody else's feed, you're looking at here and there. So a few things you can do. First of all, dismantle all notifications. Remove all the notifications. You can actually do it. Okay. Every social media site, you can just go and dismantle. Second, you have apps. You can have apps which actually block you from seeing any social media from what time to what time. So you can set yourself a lock from, let's say, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., where there's no social media coming in your site, right? You can actually do that. You can, what I've done until recently, I gave all the access to my social media to my son. Okay, and I post every day on social media. I've been posting for, I do something called as a writing on the wall. So on Facebook and on Instagram and LinkedIn, you'll find that every day in my quiet time, what is God speaking to me? I kind of make that into a line which is contextual, relevant for everybody to understand. I put it up. So I give him the thought. My daughters designed the artwork. My son's got the thought. They put it together. They manage my social media account that way. So give somebody else the rights to actually do. There are a lot of things that you can actually do. But the bottom line is this, right? Like what Jesus said, hey, if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. He was pretty brutal at that. He wasn't literally saying that, but he was making a very strong point. You got to value what's more important for you, right? If your goal is more important than your distraction, be willing to sacrifice that distraction. Yeah, it'll take a couple of days. You'll have, oh man, I want to go do it. But then trust me, you'll get used to it. I think all these hacks are important to actually put together. Would you please
Thank you, Mr.
share
Rajiv.
your daily routine?
Daily
Abraham is asking. That's a great question, Abraham. So I wake up at 6. In the lockdown, it used to be earlier. Prior to lockdown, it used to be earlier because I had to drop my kids very early in the morning. They had college and all, but lockdown now, everything is study from home, right? So I wake up at 6 every day. 6 to 6:45, 6:50 is quiet time. 6:50, I hit the gym. I leave home to go to the gym. I'm in the gym for about an hour and a half, come back home, have my coffee. Then I have my prayer time along with my wife. My wife and me pray. I start my day at 10. I do, and I kind of have meetings lined up, all online meetings. Or if I've got some other work to do, I kind of work by myself. Work from home, sense has helped. So I ensure that I have lunch with the family. I catch up with the family again. Just after lunch, I kind of take a 15-minute stretch break. So I stretch for 15, 20 minutes. I do that, continue work, finish my work at about 6:37. Sometimes because I have got my clients across the globe. I have calls even in the evening. So that's what I do. But I wrap up my work generally by 8:30 or before that. Then again, spend time with the family over dinner. Then we have a family prayer with the kids and all of us, and we share what God has taught us. Maybe watch some interesting things, some documentary or news or some interesting YouTube with the family. We watch it together. End the day by reading. So I read at least 10 pages on most days of a good book. Every day I try to read 10 pages. And I qualify it by saying most days. So it happens at least 5 days a week. I end up doing, because the idea is if you read 10 pages every day, and even in 300 days, you've read 3,000 pages. 3,000 pages, give or take, is 10 good books in a year. Be careful about what books you're reading. Choose very carefully, but you'll end up 10 pages, you can easily do it. So that's largely what my routine is.
Cool. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv, for answering that. Folks, if you have any questions, please do unmute and the time is yours. You can ask. Or else I'll keep asking my questions. Okay. Meanwhile, as people think, Mr. Rajiv, how do we explain the importance of purpose, or how to find the purpose of life to
Mm.
people who are outside the Christian worldview?
Please invite them to the Purpose Project. Our Purpose Project is for all people, very relevant. It's not just for Christians, but for everybody. But let me answer your question very briefly, right? I answer it by asking four questions. The first question is, who are you? When I say, who are you? What is your identity? What is your personality? Right? Not the masks that you put on to act like somebody else, not the labels people have put on you, not the sum of the experiences that you've gone through, but who really are you? That's the first question I ask. The second question that I ask is, what are your gifts and talents? Your potential, that is. What are your gifts and talents, right? Which is unique to you, which you, which comes so easily to you. Third is, what is your passion, right? Your passion is something that I could wake you up in the middle of the night and say, hey, Jobin, can you do this? And let's say your passion is to write. And I wake you up middle of the night, I'll say, can you write a blog for me right now? I need it. You're not going to say, hey, Rajiv, it's middle of the night. I can't do it right now. But because it's your passion, you don't mind doing it anytime. You do it free of cost also. For example, what I'm doing right now, I love to inspire people. I love to share God's word, right? I'll do it even in the middle of a busy day. That's my passion. And fourth question is, what is your problem? What is that unique burden that you feel? Is it a burden towards underprivileged kids? It's a burden about helping people to live according to their potential. Is it your burden to help people find their purpose? What is that unique burden that you face? So when you put all these answers together, right? Person, potential, passion, problem, the intersection of that is where you find your purpose, right? That is who you are. Believe in this verse, which says, you are God's masterpiece created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God has prepared beforehand for you to walk in, to live in them, right? So that's really the definition of purpose.
Wow. The four P's. Cool.
Mm.
The next question, may I know whether you have anybody to help in your household works?
Actually, the lockdown taught us to live without household helpers, right? So we were all doing things. I just described my routine to you. So we decided to contribute at home. We decided to do all the work. So there were no maids coming home, nothing of that sort, right? So my job was to do the swabbing. So I needed to swab my house, right? So that was my job. My kid's job was, and we lived in a downstairs and upstairs, right? So we swab upstairs and downstairs. My one kid would sweep down, the other kid would sweep upstairs. My son would wash the vessels. My wife does the cooking and all of that stuff. So we learned to work like that. But yes, over the last 1 month, we've got our helper who does our top work. She used to come in. By the way, we used to wash the car also by ourselves. So the lockdown taught us that, hey, you know what, you can actually do it yourself. You don't need helpers to do it. You can still be efficient and not let work suffer by if you plan your time properly. Ibrahim, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Anyone else, if you have any questions, please do unmute and ask. Okay. Mr. Rajiv, why are many people not aware of the intensity of time that is being wasted? Why aren't many people aware of that?
Because we get confused between busyness and productiveness. We've always been taught that we have to be busy, right? Do this, do that, do this, do that. And if I do more work, it gives one a sense of satisfaction. Oh, I'm doing a lot of work. It's not about being busy. It's about being productive, which means you can do even 3 tasks a day. But you do it so well that you're adding value, you're creating value, right? You're making a difference in somebody else. So I think it's the difference between being busy and being productive. Somehow we've been taught that, and therefore that's number one. Second is we live our lives on the, as being part of the rat race, part of the rat race, right? Which means that I have to be fast, I have to be first, I have to be this. But you realize that that the rat race is run on the treadmill. So however fast you run, you're still in the same place, right? So if I get this promotion from executive to senior executive, oh, I'll be very happy. You become senior executive and you think, man, like become assistant manager, I'll be happy. You become AM manager, and senior manager, and this goes on to becoming CEO. And trust me, once you become there, right, you're not happy at the end of the day, right? Because you thought that that role will actually do. So you got to enjoy what you do, enjoy what you're called to do. right? And make a difference. So I believe in going deeper is more important than going wider.
Cool. Yeah, I got a question. Thank you for answering that question, Mr. Rajiv. I got a next question that is here, and it says, I feel the work that I'm doing is unproductive, the work that I have to do, and it is consuming much of my time, but stress is the fruit that I'm tasting because of this. How do I get through this?
Um, that's a very interesting question, and most of us live lives like that, right? We do something that we don't like to do. But before I answer that question, let me also tell you that there will be occasions in our life when we have to do something which we don't like to do. Okay, we don't like to do it, but you have to do it. There could be situations like that. And if I go back into the Bible and I'm looking at, uh, for example, Joseph found himself in Potiphar's house. I'm sure he didn't want to be there. He would have preferred to be in his dad's place. But he had to be faithful there. He was faithful. He was doing what he had to do to the best of his ability. And the Bible says God was with him and God gave him favor and, God elevated him. Then he finds himself in the prison. I mean, I'm sure he didn't want to be there in the prison. It was no fault of his, he was thrown there. And it was an Egyptian dungeon, not just a prison. But you know what? He was faithful there. He was doing something which he perhaps he wouldn't have chosen to do it, but he was doing it. And he wanted to do it to the best of his ability. And the chief jailer said, hey, you know what? I'm going to put everything responsible to Joseph. Maybe because everything was responsible, he got an opportunity to minister to the cupbearer of the king. Right. So the point I'm making, there are times in the seasons that, where we are doing what we have to do. We may not choose it, but we have to do it. In those times, I think it's very important for us to choose our attitude, have the right attitude. And second, realize who you are serving, not your boss. You're serving the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, right? If you have that kind of an attitude, it makes it better for you. Number one. Number two, after a prolonged period and you feel that, hey, you know what, I'm really not happy about what I'm doing, then you got to find out what your purpose is, what your talents are, what your abilities are. Are you giving yourself an opportunity to exercise your talents and abilities? The more you give yourself a chance to exercise your talents and ability, more hours you give yourself, the more satisfied you will be, right? But you have to make a balance between what I call marketability of your talents and just doing your talents for the sake of it. Because at the end of the day, you got bills to pay as well, right? Now, bills to pay should not be a center, but bills to pay is important nevertheless. So, so how do you make that balance between if you're in a situation where you can use your talents and abilities and still be able to pay the bills, fantastic. That happens when you move your talent to a state of giftedness. When talent becomes a gift, then people will want you. They will pay for you, right? For you to exercise your gift, right? So therefore, moving your talent to giftedness is very important. But in the interim, when your talent is just a talent and not yet a gift, right? Find ways. So if you love working with numbers, then you should be in accounts. You should be in actuarial. If you love working with people, then you should be spending your time in HR or in training or something like that. If you love selling, then you should be in sales, right? So are you giving yourself a good chance? So this is these are 3-4 things that I would kind of suggest that you think through and work it that way.
Thank you, ma'am, for asking that question. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv, for answering that question. I think it's time to send the playlist of Crossway videos to all of these people where you've addressed the difference between gift and talent and how to face your fears and all. There's a question: how do we enroll in your purpose project?
Okay, can you just type it in, Jogan?
Yeah,
The website is
www.
www.thepurposeproject.in.
The purpose project.
Project.in. You can check us out there. Uh, you'll find all the information there. Or you can just look me up, on Instagram or on Facebook or LinkedIn. You'll find more details there.
Have I typed it out right, Mr. Rajiv?
Yeah, the purpose project.in. Yes, you're right.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for asking that question. Okay, if anyone else has questions, please do ask, or else I'll be asking my next question. Okay. With the pause, I'll be asking my next. Yeah, I think someone has
So
saved
Rajiv,
it.
this you have put in your this one. You have one-to-one counselor who can discuss with the people and work out an actionable plan, right?
Yeah.
So would this be free, or how would you do it?
Yeah. So the Purpose Project in English, I think it's about 1,500 plus tags, right? For that, you get an assessment. You assess a purpose quiz. You actually take, you get a personalized report. Then you are invited for a 7 hour workshop with breaks. So your actual training time is about 5 odd hours. Then you have a one-on-one purpose coach session where you would draft out your action plan. For all of this, we are charging 1670. That's inclusive of tax. That's the English one. By God's grace, very recently we launched our our Tamil batch. In our Tamil batch, we are charging 650 inclusive of tax. There is no assessment there, but there's a workshop and there's the coaching. And by God's grace, this Saturday we're launching our Hindi version of Purpose Project in Hindi, which is again 650. You get the workshop as well as you get the one-on-one coaching in Hindi. So that's how it works, Sister.
okay, okay. Because we thought we can connect with you for because ours is some voluntary. So some
Yeah.
counselors, purpose counselors, I saw in your website. That's why.
Yeah, yeah. So that's part of the program. But having said
Yeah.
all these pricing and all, for deserving candidates who really can't afford it, money is not the barrier. We are happy to take such people looking at an age group of about 18 to about 45. That's the age group we're looking at. But if people can't really afford it, yeah, we'll be happy to take them on an invitation basis. But for others, we just want them to pay a nominal fee because there's always value when you pay
Yes.
for something. We believe in that principle. That's why we're doing this.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll move to my next question, Mr. Rajiv. You asked us in your talk to identify our time robbers and wasters and deal with them decisively. For few friends that I know personally, they even though they've identified their robbers, caught up in such chaotic situations that they are unable to deal with them. For example, my friends in this village, they are caught up in a debt trap, and most of the time it's just focused only on getting rid of the debt and the interest rate. They're just paying the interest; they're not paying the debt at all. So they're caught up in that, and they're unable to sleep well. They're unable to take time to pray. They've got their debts because lack of faith in God. They accept the fact and all, but these robbers and these wasters, they're unable to deal with it decisively. What do I do in order to help them?
So I first of all, I don't think that's a time robber. That's a consequence that they're going through. Okay, like you said, they made the wrong choices and therefore they are in loans right now. So they are actually facing consequences. Having said that, I think it's important to look at two things to do. One is how do you reduce your expenses, right? So that you are able to save. I'm telling them, right? That's so that they're able to save and use that saving to pay off the debt. And secondly, how can you generate more income? Which means doing a couple of jobs if you have to, yeah, to generate that kind of an income. And I think we're living now in a time where employment and the way we are employed is changing. Okay, we're going to see lots of people are making the move into entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship of different types, from baking cakes to taking tuitions to training to creative art to making videos to running regular businesses. So different types of entrepreneurship are there, right? So we're moving into a phase of entrepreneurship. We're also moving into a phase where people are encouraged to do two jobs at a time, right? So they can work from 8 to 1 in one place, and then from 3 to 7:38 again in another place, right? Gives them an opportunity to earn an extra income. So they need to start thinking how can they earn that extra income, which is pleasing in God's eyes, to do it. They need to stretch at this particular place for them to do it. So these are practical things that perhaps they need to look at. Or if there's something that they own which they really believe they don't at this point they don't need to own, then they need to sell it perhaps and pay off the debt.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiv. I'll keep that in mind. We got a personal question. As a homemaker, at the end of the day, Sometimes it looks like I didn't spend my time in a useful manner. Yes, in aspects of praying, take care of kids, I do that, but still, I think I'm not fulfilling the purpose in my life. What do I do?
I want to tell you that you are the champion. Homemakers are the champion. I'm going to be writing a blog. It's been on my mind, but I've not got it out. But I'm going to tell you in suspense, in advance, the name of the blog. I do a lot of work in the area of leadership, and I do a lot of work in leadership with CEOs and their direct reports and things like that. And often when you talk about leadership, right, they always talk about the uh, Steve Jobs of the world and the Elon Musks of the world and all these MS Dhonis of the world and all these megastars. Let's learn from these leaders. I'm writing a blog about leadership lessons from a mother. In my mind, I think mothers are the greatest leaders. Okay, and there are so many leadership lessons you can learn from a mother, right from sacrifice, right from bringing up her children, right from multitasking, right, doing different work at home at the same time, right from disciplining, forgiveness, right? So many leadership lessons from a mother. So please never ever say I am just a homemaker. You shame many supposedly thinking successful people. Oh, I'm so successful, I have this designation. Nothing compared to what a homemaker, the role of a homemaker. So you are a champion. Okay, so please don't underestimate yourself. Having said that, if your children are grown up right now and you got some extra time in your hand, then you may think, what else can I do with that time? Right? That's when you need to revisit what is your personality? What is your identity? What is your passion? What is the problem that you want to solve? And you can actually do it, right? I just know that during the lockdown, there were these homemakers. What they started to do is started to make lunch boxes, because many of these bachelors, were stuck at home and they couldn't go out to the hotel for food or couldn't order. You know what? They started just serving lunch in their apartments, and they put it out in their WhatsApp group in the apartment saying, "Look, these are the lunch boxes available. Anybody wants, just send us a message and we'll keep it ready for you. This is how much you pay." It became such a roaring business. They spent 3 hours on that. 3 women, 3 hours on that. They built up an app as well. And now it's not just their society, it's different societies that they're actually doing. So if you've got free time on your hand, you know what your potential is, you know what your passion is, there are plenty of opportunities that you can actually do. But I go back to the first point I made. You are doing an awesome job as a homemaker. I salute you for that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv, for encouraging the ma'am who has asked this question. We're going to another question that's there in the chat box. What is your advice to people who struggle with procrastination? Does your team offer help to such people?
Yeah, we do some coaching. We can organize that for you if you want help on that particular aspect. But let me try and give you a couple of tips. Okay. We often procrastinate the things that we don't like to do. Okay, or things that don't come naturally to us. If it's something natural, your potential, you'll never procrastinate that. You'll jump into do it. Okay, so remember that, number one. So ask yourself, do I have to do this? Right? If you have to do it, then you have to do it. If you don't have to do it, then somebody else do it. Okay. Second is break up that task into small bits. Let's say you need to submit a thesis, right, or a presentation, a project, right? If you think, oh, the project is so much to do, the thought of so much to do will keep you from starting. But if you're able to say the project is 5 parts, okay, I'm going to do the first part in the next 3 days. I'm not going to worry about part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. No, I'm taking it out of my mind. Only part 1 I'm going to focus on. And you're allocating 3 days for that. You've got a time, and and in that time you start working. Once you cross that first part, you know what? The adrenaline has already started to flow in the system. And then you're focusing on the next part. So break it up into chunks. Third is have an accountability partner. Right? Maybe your spouse, maybe your children, maybe a brother, maybe a sister, maybe an elder in your church, whoever, your pastor. and saying, this is what I'm going to do. Can you hold me accountable to it? And the moment you don't do it, you're going to get that call. And that kind of drives you. That's point number 3. Point number 4, I want you to sit and visualize at the end of that task, how will you feel? Start thinking about that even before you finish the task. If you are supposed to run that 5 kilometers this week, across 3 days, right? 2.5. At the end of that 5 kilometers, how do you think you'll feel? You'll feel so positive. You'll feel so, wow, man, I did that 5. Get that feeling even before you start the task, right? So this is what I'll say. And most important, pray about it, right? Pray about for God's wisdom. That the Holy Spirit will guide you, and the Holy Spirit will be your convictor and saying, hey, you know what? You're not doing it. Get up and start doing it right now, right? So and the Holy Spirit will equip you to actually do this, right? So prayer goes without saying. That's the foundation, besides all the practical steps that I told you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv. If anyone has any other questions, please do unmute and ask. Otherwise, from here, we'll wind up this Q&A and we can bring an end to this session.
Just want to say, Jobin, it's okay with Sister Lata as well. Lots of these questions I've answered as videos. They are available on my YouTube channel. Rajiv Chelladurai is the name of my YouTube channel. You'll find a lot of these questions, different types of questions like this and other subjects that are there. So should you think you want to watch it, please feel free to watch it.
You can post your YouTube link here.
Okay. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I'll take it from you, Mr. Rajiv, and I'll put it up in the group. Yeah. Also here. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what you need to look for on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. I'll ask one final question, and then I think we can wrap it up. Now, you asked us to set goals and all that. Many times we are confused in setting goals whether these are the right ones or not, and how do we combat that confusion? Because we are ambitious, we want to do great things and all that, but at the end of the day, we need wisdom to set the right goals.
Yeah.
Do we simply depend on God? Is that the way?
How to depend on God goes without saying, but the answer is a one-word answer. It's purpose. Okay, you need to know what your purpose is, and your goals are an outcome of your purpose. Now, if you have goals which are independent of your purpose, it's like shooting in the dark. You don't know why you're doing it. Why do I need to learn this skill? Why do I need to spend this time on this course? Why do I need to lose weight? It has to be aligned. The anchor is purpose. And I told you Ephesians, that verse, right? I think it's in Ephesians 4. For you are God's workmanship created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God has created in advance for you to do. You need to identify what those good works are and basis that good works with God. For that, you need God's help. And all these 4 questions I told you. With that, you set your goals. And, goals need to be linked with purpose. If goals are not linked with purpose, you're shooting in the dark.
Okay. So I think I quickly enrolled to the Purpose Project ASAP. Yeah. Everyone in the room, I've put up the link of Mr. Rajiv's YouTube channel. Please do note it down somewhere, maybe in your WhatsApp or somewhere else, so that you can use it for reference for all the questions that you guys have. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv, once again for taking your time and being a part of DRM. Thank you all for taking your time and being a part of DRM. I hope you all have learned some lessons that you can put in your life and live a purposeful and meaningful life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is the second time. Yeah, we are privileged. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. God bless you all.